The path to Buddhism is open to everyone, and it doesn't require complex rituals, mysterious initiations, or the transmission of esoteric knowledge. There's no need for pilgrimages or searching for spiritual mentors. To become a Buddhist, a sincere personal decision, the acceptance of lay vows, and taking refuge in the three jewels are all that's needed. But what lies behind these steps? The first step is the decision to become a Buddhist. To ensure this decision isn't just empty words, it's necessary to have at least a superficial understanding of the Buddha's teachings. Otherwise, how can you sincerely declare your affiliation with Buddhism without knowing about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path? Fortunately, even a cursory acquaintance with these fundamentals takes only 15 minutes. Buddhism is striking in its depth and complexity, but at the same time, it wins you over with its logic and simplicity. The second step is taking the lay vows. These vows represent a minimal set of moral principles that Buddhists accept voluntarily, striving for happiness and good karma. No one imposes these vows, and violating them doesn't lead to condemnation. It's a personal choice based on the desire for betterment. So, what are these vows? Firstly, abstaining from killing living beings, including insects and animals, and consequently abstaining from eating them. Secondly, abstaining from stealing, that is, appropriating what wasn't given voluntarily. Thirdly, abstaining from lying, except when a lie is necessary to save another person, although this requires special caution. Fourthly, abstaining from improper sexual behavior, such as infidelity. Fifthly, abstaining from consuming alcohol and other substances that cloud the mind, except when medically necessary. These principles of ethical behavior are quite reasonable and supported by most societies. Who likes liars, thieves, murderers, and drunkards? It's worth noting that these vows are much simpler than the commandments of many other religions. But what happens if a person breaks one of the vows, for example, drinks a beer? This won't deprive them of their status as a Buddhist, but it will lead to the accumulation of bad karma. Everything is logical and consistent. The third cornerstone of spiritual practice is taking refuge, which isn't just a formal ritual, but a deep inner decision. Life presents itself to us in all its complexity, with the burden of illness, relentless aging, and the inevitability of death, overshadowed by physical and mental suffering that affects our loved ones as well. How does a person react to these harsh realities? Often they seek salvation, taking refuge in various forms, striving to find support and relief. Many find solace in the material world, accumulating wealth and acquiring countless things, seeing in this a temporary protection from life's hardships, an illusion of control, and a short-lived joy of possession. We shouldn't condemn such behavior, for criticizing others is not only useless, but also harmful. Moreover, the pursuit of consumption isn't the worst of human pursuits. However, refuge found in things and wealth turns out to be very unreliable. Things are prone to breaking, wealth can disappear in an instant, and most importantly, material values aren't able to fill that inner void, which can be romantically described as a deep sense of meaninglessness and the looming threat of illness, aging, and the finitude of existence. The unreliability of such refuge is especially evident during life crises. Others find refuge in family, claiming that it's their everything, and that's wonderful. Again, condemnation is inappropriate here. Moreover, such selflessness deserves all praise. But even in this case, a problem arises. Family, alas, isn't a reliable haven either. Children may not grow up as their parents imagined, spouses may separate, children leave the parental home. Much can go wrong. There are also hundreds of other types of refuge: alcohol, work, the virtual world, sports, books, music, everything that a person uses to shield themselves from the harsh reality of life. It should be emphasized that these activities themselves are often very useful and even necessary for a healthy social life and a developed psyche. They can and should be pursued. However, they aren't suitable as refuge because they're unreliable and impermanent. When faced with illness, aging, and death, which no one can avoid, these saving graces will prove powerless. In the Buddhist tradition, believers find support and protection in the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Taking refuge in the Buddha means recognizing him as the main teacher and guide on the spiritual path. However, this concept extends far beyond and includes the veneration of all enlightened beings, all Buddhas who existed before and after the historical Buddha Shakyamuni. It's important to note that these enlightened teachers appeared not only in Eastern lands, but also in various corners of the world. Dharma, in turn, is a set of methods, practices, and theoretical positions that a Buddhist follower decides to test and verify through their own experience. It is emphasized that Buddhism does not require blind faith. On the contrary, the sacred texts, sutras, contain an appeal for critical reflection and personal conviction. Sangha is the community of all practicing Buddhists, united by common goals and aspirations. By joining the Buddhist community, one gains support and friendly participation from other followers of this teaching. In a narrower sense, Sangha is a group of people who jointly practice meditation and study Buddhist texts. In a broad sense, it is a worldwide brotherhood of Buddhists, encompassing the past and present. The concept of taking refuge in the three jewels has a deep meaning and deserves thoughtful study. For those who value rituals, there is a classic formula for taking refuge, which can even be recited in Sanskrit. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. These words symbolize a firm intention to follow the path indicated by the Buddha and to seek support in the teaching and the community. The decision to embark on the path of Buddhism entails several important steps. First of all, it is necessary to make a conscious decision to become a Buddhist. Then, one should take lay vows, trying to adhere to them in everyday life. An important element is taking refuge, which symbolizes entering the Buddhist path. After completing these steps, a person can consider themselves a Buddhist, as there are no more formal requirements. However, this is only the beginning of the journey. The most interesting and useful part begins next: practice. Delving into Buddhist practice opens the door to self-knowledge and spiritual growth. Success on this path and the results achieved depend entirely on personal effort, dedication, and commitment to the chosen path.